Because when you buy physical media, what you're actually doing is voting with your dollars. So I'm not a fan of piracy, you know, and to be absolutely honest, I bought like a lot of anime series that weren't officially released in the gray market. But the minute that they're released, even though I already own like, whatever copy, I go and buy the real one so that the creators make money. So we're in a different time now because when I was into anime and when I first got into all this, if we wanted to see like Gundam, for example, we would get videotapes that were like recycled 18 generations and almost in black and white. If you wanted to watch anything, even Sailor Moon, you know, like you would get these horrible like copies. So now I try to make sure that, because they're not going to, no one's going to put anything out if there's no market for that way. You know, and like we're in a more, quote, I'm gonna say, we're in a more entitled time. Like fans are more entitled now than perhaps in the history of mankind. Because I'm very happy that things exist, and I see people complain about things. I'm like, do you realize that when for example, I'm a child of the '80s, right? We got a new superhero movie once every 5 to 6 years, and it was usually Superman. Yep. You know, and Batman. Yep. Yeah, '89. But my point in all this is that try to support things that you like, not you, but people try to support things you like with money. Yes. You know, please. You know. But yeah, I don't know if it's going to show up, but if you can even going to stream it on your computer for a week, you know, because I think you can do like a free week on Netflix.
Yes, 7-day trial.
Yeah, they do a 7-day trial. If you can, jump on your computer, if you got high-speed internet someplace, and then just only watch War for Cybertron. That will send the greatest message to Netflix that anybody can.
They created another account.
There you go.
Great. Thank you so much, Ben.
Thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
It worked.
Hello.
Hello.
8 seasons.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
I don't know how much, I know there are a lot of things you can't talk about.
Sure.
So I'm going to try to hit you with a whole bunch of little, maybe short answer type questions. So you mentioned it's a big budget. That's the first time we've actually heard, hey, like this is going to be a quality kind of series like in Transformers.
There's money going into it, yes.
We haven't seen before.
Right. Yes, you're right.
Which is terrific.
Yes.
Is there any hint? Let's start with, well, first of all, what exactly is your role? Like how much have you written?
I wrote half the first season.
Half of the first season.
Yes.
And terrific. And is there any indication as to when it will be out? Do we have a sense?
All I know right now is that production is underway this month as we speak in Japan, because it's tomorrow in Japan now. So they're working on it right now. Right now. So I don't know when the first trailer is going to get cut for it. Nobody knows the projected release date other than sometime in 2020. If it was up to me, I mean, I'm wagering a guess. It'll probably be summer 2020. That's just a guess. That's all I know. That's actually all I know. Because I mean, my role for right now is pretty much done. Like we wrapped season 1 in terms of writing, so we're just in the midst of production right now.
And can you talk a little bit about where you came at in the length of it? So you were handed sort of a story Bible, and then yours was to flush out dialogue, or yours was to develop the story? I
won't say that, but I will say how animation is produced in general, as far as writers are concerned. Usually a showrunner or executive producer will have a mandate, well, let me be more specific. If it's a licensed product, like Ninja Turtles, G.I. Joe, Transformers, Voltron, whatever the case, the company that owns it will commission a series. Like, we want a new series, and we want it to be this, this, and this, right? Then they hire a executive producer or showrunner to write a Bible that encapsulates and incorporates everything that the parent company wants for this particular series. So like My Little Pony, for example, best example ever. When the new My Little Pony series came out, they wanted to do a very specific thing with those characters, so they found writers who could handle that type of storytelling, right? And what winds up happening is, after the pilot's written by the showrunner or executive producer, right, then that person usually reaches out to their circle of colleagues to hire, do the first round of hiring. And this is true in animation, and usually that's what happens. Then what happens is, sometimes they realize that people they hire don't know enough about the source material. Sometimes they don't want people. Sometimes they get people who are completely ignorant of the franchise to write stories. I don't know why, but they do that, right? In this particular case, I came in sometime toward the end in terms of the development cycle, and they knew through a lot of people that I have an affinity for Transformers, And they were like, well, let's take a shot, on me, and they did. They took a chance, and they liked what they saw, and they gave me another episode. Then they liked it, and then they were like, dude, you have to finish this up.
Yeah.
You did the last 3, so originally it was gonna be 104 and 105, and then things happened, and I got 106. And that's how it works, But it's all a business. It's very clockworky, It's not haphazard. Nothing's like people tend to think. I hear fans. I read. Fans tend to think things are just thrown at the wall. No, when you're doing animation, it is planned in tightly, way in advance, because every moment of time in animation equals a certain amount of dollars. And every second or millisecond on screen equals hundreds or thousands of dollars. So you have to, even live action shows, so you have to make sure that everybody's on point. So when everybody showed up, when I showed up, they knew I didn't need any hand-holding, because I already had a certain amount of experience. So they probably wouldn't have gotten a neophyte writer. They needed somebody with some experience in meeting deadlines, and also learning how to deal with constructive criticism. As our society becomes more narcissistic, people can't seem to undertake constructive criticism very well, right? So
Yeah, you gotta ignore some of the haters, really.
Right.
There's
Well,
so much
yeah,
of that
don't.
now.
Well,
like,
I'll
it's
tell you-
ruining Star Wars, and don't let it get to you and Transformers, really.
Well, I already dealt with it. I mean, for God's sake. I mean, when I wrote Transformers Deviations, like what if Optimus Prime didn't die and Transformers a movie, I made Hot Rod horrible as a person. I thought he was horrible because he got in the way to begin with. I was like, what the hell? Like if I saw my leader fighting the leader of the bad guys and he's winning, why would I get involved in that fight?
Exactly.
I mean, as a kid, I was watching, I was like, oh, Hot Rod's cool, I like the color, and he turns into a race car. But then as you get older, you're like, dude, you are not suited to lead the Autobots. I'm surprised everyone didn't die in season 3 of the show because you sucked as a leader, I hate to say that, but so when I wrote that, fans online were calling me, expletives, And what I said is, one guy was in LA, and I'm like, dude, I live in LA. We'll probably run into each other at a con. Do you really think it's a smart idea to, be disrespectful to a guy you could probably meet? And then when people meet me in person, they're awesome, nice, but online, well, I always say the internet makes warriors out of cowards, and the overall point in all of this is that, nothing was done haphazard. I came in, I had a certain amount of experience that made me perfectly suited for that particular show. Other Transformers shows, I probably wouldn't have been good for because of my sensibilities as a storyteller.
So you said you wrote episode 103, 4, 5?
No, 4, 5, 6.
4, 5, and 6. Does that mean this is a
6 episodes season.
Yeah.
6 episodes season,
Yes.
and these are each 22-minute long?
A little bit longer. They might be closer, a little bit longer than that.
6, a little bit longer than 22-minute season.
There you go. There's gonna be 3 seasons of 6 episodes.
I'm super encouraged by the fact that they brought you in as a person who has an affinity for and a love for Transformers. That tends to be the secret sauce ingredient that makes shows, comics,
Yes.
my favorite Transformer fiction, stand out. Oh yeah, it gives me great. Did you have say in creative decisions at all at this point? Oh my God, I really want so and so to play the voice of this guy.
No, absolutely not.
No,
that's a money decision.
that's a money. Yeah.
When you write this is not about the show. Anytime you write any animation, you can pretty much do anything in animation, but again, you have to think about moving mouths, moving fingers. Sometimes you'll watch a show and it's a medium shot because they don't want to animate the feet and hands. Because that costs money. Sometimes they'll have, especially in anime is doing this a lot now, where 2 characters will be standing and they'll be facing the sunset, and they'll be like, blah, 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 blah. They don't want to animate the mouths. So you gotta remember, this is a business, and once you realize it's a business, it's all a money decision. So no, I have no control. I'm not the money guy. I have no control over anything. I suggest certain things. They definitely liked some of my suggestions that was well within the budget. Some things that I wanted to do, they were like, dude, they're not gonna let us do that. End of story. So there you go.
You seem happy, as a Transformers fan that seems happy with the way things are rolling out. I'm just super happy to hear that, and I'm thrilled that as many people as do have Netflix, there's a gazillion people out there that have it, are going to really, really see this in a way that I'm encouraged to see your...
I think when the trailer drops, it's going to people are going to be stunned and very excited. That's all I'm going to say about that.
I could keep asking questions,
Yes,
but...
I know.
Thank you.
Will Peter Cullen be on the show?
Don't know yet. I have no idea who the voice cast is.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately, I don't. I wish. Oh, God, I wish.
Is Metroplex going to be on the show at all?
I can't say.
Oh.
Thank you.
All right.
Yes. Thank you.
I'm gonna be honest, when I saw the panel prompt, I was like, is this the talk about the war for Cybertron video games? Because I played those.
Everybody's gonna say that.
Yeah, but that did make me wonder, since this is a prequel series, like how much of previous lore was allowed to influence what's being put on? You don't have to say.
No.
specifics.
I'm trying to figure out a way to answer that. That's a good question. I believe 100% that the lore that's coming out of this will likely be the new canon. So there are things that we've seen before in some cases and things we've never seen before, but it does not in any way violate anybody's memory of G1. Because it doesn't in any way invalidate the 1984 series. I'll leave it at that. Hey.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Hey.
Like you, 84 is a special year for me too. I remember that. My son Chris was born. He was
More of a Cybertron Netflix TV show.
Today, I think. But
Oh, yes,
Hello,
the
Renata.
cartoon. Oh,
I
yes.
was in Transformers already, but I think I'm responsible for him getting really good. My question is a simple one.
Sure.
I heard a lot of writers this weekend, and I was always curious as a new writer on this upcoming series.
Mhm.
Is there a writer community? Do you guys share information? How do you connect with all these decades worth of writers?
Okay, well, all right, see, all right, where do I start? Okay, well, in the industry, Hollywood's a town, I mean, the industry. In the industry, you have animation writers and live action writers. In live action writers, you have drama and comedy. Drama writers are usually 1 hour writers, comedy is a half hour writers. So it's already a balkanization of how things are set up. Nobody takes animation writers seriously, period. Yet, unless your name is Seth MacFarlane, Matt Groening, Al John, or like Matt Stone, the Parker, you have to be a prime time animation writer. So people take those folks, anything that comes on after 8 p.m., people take those creators seriously because Seth MacFarlane now has a Star Trek ripoff show. So, which is fine, Orville's fine, but I'm just saying that he started as an animation guy and he's running an homage show to Star Trek The Next Generation. So, if you're a nighttime animation writer, you're fine. Daytime animation writers, no one takes seriously. So you have to make a decision. I'm on the cusp of both. One thing I didn't talk about, I worked on season 2 of Marvel's Agent Carter. So working on Agent Carter got me out of the animation world, for a bit. And a lot of my live action stuff gets, attention. I almost get hired on TV shows and then things happen. But the reality is, animation, you can easily meet animation, you can meet any writer, and it's if you live in LA, because we're all around. Like you go to any coffee shop between 9 and 3, you're gonna see a bunch of dudes. So, writers are everywhere in this town. There are showrunners, and those are the highest level writers. There's showrunners in this building right now of major TV shows. I'm not gonna point them out, because they're Transformers fans too, but there are showrunners here. And if you ask them, you wouldn't believe the show that this guy, my buddy, he's here now, you wouldn't believe the show that he runs, and there's a big TV show on CBS, So it's like, writers are everywhere in LA. Now the trick is, you don't want to position yourself as somebody who is needy, because the minute you go asking for something, or wanting something from somebody, because everybody can smell opportunities, what you have to do is find people at your level. It's like when you want to play a sport, you don't just go walking into MLB. Like today, you have to start at the A, AA, AAA, other ways of getting into Major League Baseball or basketball or hockey, whatever you like, right? So same thing with writers. You don't, unless you're extremely lucky and extremely talented or extremely rich, the rich people can buy their way into pretty much any place, right? So with that being said, it is very easy to meet people. But the truth is, to get people to take you seriously, you have to start creating your own material and hopefully get hired on some shows that people have heard of and people like, and they will take you seriously. But when you're starting out, you have to basically prove you're not trying to get something from somebody. And that's a long process. It's like anybody's life. Like, if you are a doctor and you meet somebody who says they want to be a doctor, most doctors will play the mentor role, but there's only so much they can do. You have to be capable, you know? And that's why, you know, if you want to be a police officer, you have to go to police academy. If you want to be a firefighter, you want to go to the fire academy. They need to make sure that you can handle the job. And with writers, there's no such academy, but it's the benefit of experience. And a lot of people don't have the experience, and that's what makes it harder for new writers to connect with people. But generally speaking, most writers are decent. The higher you get up, the more closed off you tend to be. But when you start, hey.
Hey, Brad.
Hey.
Okay, so just wanted to point out something because we were talking about how we get this show noticed. Y'all remember a show called Voltron? Voltron got noticed because, well, the revamp got noticed because, you know, they didn't think that show was going to succeed. So what they did, the same way we should be doing with this, they had a lot of new subscribers come as far as that Voltron series is concerned. And they got 8 seasons out of that as a result of that.
Correct.
They also got noticed, they created podcasts, new podcasts. They even created, WEP created an official podcast for that show. As a result of that, they created more podcasts behind that as well.
Right.
They got noticed at New York Comic Con and everywhere. So I'm saying, if you don't have Netflix now, just wait till the show come out. Wait till the show come out and then, you know, watch the series.
It'll drop at 12:01 a.m. on a Saturday morning. That's how it always is. And if, like I said, a bunch of people subscribe that Friday and then only watch that and then cancel it, then it'll send the biggest message in the world directly to Netflix. They're like, oh, okay, so you did make the right investment.
That's right. Like I said, it happened the same way with Voltron.
There you go.
That's what I
Thank you,
wanted
sir.
to say.
Also, those thumbs up.
I heard the animation studio on the show is the same one that did Transformers Prime. Could we expect the same quality from the show?
Well, it's Rooster Teeth is part of it, and then it's also a Polygon. Polygon did a show called Knights of Sidonia on Netflix. It's an anime. But if you look at the animation style for Knights of Sidonia and then basically compare that to the box art or the poster art for Siege, that's what the show's going to look like visually.
Okay.
So, yes, like I said, it's been repeated many times. There's a lot of money going into this. So they're doing this because they want people to watch it. Because if, like, we've all seen Bumblebee, I would assume. If you remember how Bumblebee started, like, think of, you know, with everything only on Cybertron and no humans, and it's a Cybertronian war. I mean, when I saw that scene, right, and then Soundwave says, and I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. Then you get Jex Ravage, for God's sake. I was like, all right, they're going in the right direction. You know, and then the Decepticon jets look like the triangles, the Delta thing. Yeah, good God. I mean, the toys look like that. You know, Starscream, Thundercrack, and Skywarp are going to be, you know, the triangles. So, it's going, just the vibe you got from the beginning of Bumblebee, I would think about that. Also the visual and the tone, yeah, keep that in mind.
If Rooster Teeth is working on a show, would the show be going onto their website?
I don't know that. Again, it's a business decision. I would assume because Netflix has the rights for distribution and stream, it's going to be on Netflix probably only for quite some time. Probably. I think the Rooster Teeth and Hasbro, they'll have all kind of clips, just like they did for the other shows. And because I remember Go 90, which is now gone, they did the Prime War stuff, and it was available originally only on like the mobile streams, and then eventually ended up other places. So whoever has the rights up front, and Netflix is very proprietary, like, you know, they are not, you can't just steal some Netflix stuff, you have to pay for it. So it's going to be on Netflix, I don't think.
Right.
Such they're going to be everywhere though.
1099.
There you go.
What is your system?
Well, what I like to do, okay, this is a funny story. I was a fan up until about 88, 89, and then, you know, life, girls, and everything else just came into it. And then, I'll say this, Transformers as a show, and I said this in a couple of interviews earlier, you know, it brought me a lot of comfort. because, you know, I didn't have a bad upbringing, but I had, you know, everybody's family has issues. So for the 30 minutes that show was on, it was like a refuge from all the nonsense in the family. And I loved first of all, the fact that it was like a almost space opera type feel, a civil war between robot clans that was brought to Earth. I mean, that's a crazy idea. I mean, the Japanese had done that in anime for years, but the U.S. had never really had something that wasn't imported from Japan. You know, because it was like Mazinger Z, Translator Z, you know, Voltus 5, and then Voltron Force, and then what was the other one? Gundam didn't come until like the 90s, you know. So for me, I always wanted this. I like the darker takes on things because I think if most mecha shows are war-based, so you shouldn't be juggling, you know, like oranges in the middle of battles and stuff like that. I mean, it's a war, and I've always wanted to see a Cybertronian civil war be that, a Cybertronian civil war. I used to teach history, so the U.S. Civil War is like my thing. So when you think about how it looked and how it felt, it was absolutely horrifying and dirty and filthy and disgusting, and like there was no hope. And I feel that a lot of war shows and even cartoon versions need to get into that space, and they always don't. So I feel like, you know, I'm trying to think of something. Like there was a Gundam series called Gundam 00.
Yes. Yes.
It has a very strong political vibe that got really dark at points. There was another one, or older one, called Gundam the 08 MS Team, which was like a Vietnam Gundam. That has some really cool stuff in it. And then, of course, the original Gundam universe, Universal Century, has Char's Counterattack, which is probably the greatest animated mecha thing of all time. And if you're not watching Gundam Origin, which is now on Hulu, if you if you want dark stuff and with mecha, Gundam Origin it starts at the beginning. I would watch that. It is absolutely astounding, seriously. So with that being said, so I tend to skew more towards stuff like Evangelion, you know, which is like a mind screw. You know, I've tried to explain Evangelion to people, and
You can.
it's like if David, no, his name is David. Who's the guy who did the guy who did that movie with everybody was a heroin addict. So it's in that type of vibe. Like I like the darker stuff. Like the Purge series is kind of like my thing, like my sensibility visually, and also not so much execution, but the tone of the Purge. Like one thing I like about the Purge, when you hear that siren, it is the most horrifying sound. So I like to put stuff like that in there. So when you hear or see a certain thing, it evokes an emotional response. Stuff like that, you know. Also, I would say my true 1,000% sensibility is the last 10 minutes of the original Blade Runner. That's it. And Clockwork Orange. And 2001 before he goes into the last war. That's it. That's
Desperation and urgency.
Thanks for being here. It's really
Thank
awesome
you.
to hear from a writer before our show comes out.
Yeah.
It's really awesome. Who's your favorite character out of the toys that have been released that we know that are in the characters that you wrote for it?
Okay, so my favorite character is Megatron. I think he has never been done right until we got a hold of him, my opinion. You know. Well, in the original Transformers, the movie, in '86, it was, because I saw it the day it came out, and I'm from Baltimore, so it was crowded theater. It was actually crowded that day. And when Megatron kills Ironhide, the way he killed him, and we were all sitting there like, But it was like, wait a minute, he just shot Ironhide at point blank range in the head with a fusion cannon. You know, and then people died. And I was like, you know, okay, this is all cute. I'm like, well, what?
Thank you.
People just getting shot and killed. So Megatron in the Transformers movie was like, I had been waiting to see him portrayed that way, where when he shoots you once, you die. Yeah. Because he has like a nuclear furnace on it and attached to a black hole on his shoulder. It's like, how did you get from this? You know? I love Optimus Prime. How can you not? You know, some of the B-level characters, like as far as toys, I always felt, I really like Astro Train for some reason, don't ask me why. Yeah. But Astro Train is like a steam locomotive that turns into a space shuttle. Yeah. That's crazy, right? So I love that character. I loved Prowl as a toy, the original C1 toy. I love Prowl. And Skywarp as a toy, especially Masterpiece Skywarp. It's the most beautiful design, I mean, good God, right? So those are my favorite. And in terms of story, I've always loved, I love the Beast Wars Megatron.
Yeah.
You know, great characters. I used to laugh at Waspinator, you know, I thought that was a great character, he was like, it's comedic. Black Arachnia, bless you. Black Arachnia, that was one of the most incredible characters in Transformers history. She is vicious and brutal, but still was cool at the same time. I mean, like, she deserves her own series. There needs to be a Black Arachnia comic, you know, in my opinion, you know. Yeah, so those are the characters I really like.
Cool.
Yeah, overall, yeah.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Could we expect this show to pull Transformers Prime and kill Cliff Jumper off the first episode?
I don't even, I can't answer that. And, I don't believe so.
Okay.
I don't believe that's, no, I don't believe so.
Will Cliff Jumper survive at all?
I can't answer that at
Or
all.
will he be cut in half again?
I can't answer that. I can't answer any of that stuff.
I know you mentioned Gundam.
Yes.
What's your favorite Gundam series? Which is your favorite series?
Gundam Unicorn now is my favorite because of what they did with it and how they were willing to play with the new type being kind of like the Force. So, because Gundam Unicorn was sort of like Gundam step towards Star Wars, you know, in a way with the new type powers. I think the Banshee in Gundam Unicorn, the black and gold one, that thing is ridiculously beautiful. I like Deathside from Gundam Wing. I call that Batman Gundam. That's what it was like. What else? What's it called? The one from Stardust Memory, the 0083 is the GP02, the one that has a big giant shield that looks like a building, that carries a nuclear cannon on the other arm. Yeah, that, the GP02 I think it is, that's ridiculous. And the Sazabi. But anything Char flies was pretty much badass the whole time. I mean, every mobile suit Char ever touched, even the original Zop 2 Red, the space version, was absolutely astounding. I mean, that's an incredible piece of machinery. And those are my favorite suits, yeah.
You're going to a 00? You're doing,
The Exia?
yeah.
See, okay, see, 00 to me felt like Gundam Wing done correctly, you know? It's almost the same thing, except that it's more politically intelligent. The designs are a little bit better. But the problem is all the Gundams look way too, like, they look like, you know, like Skittles to me. It's like somebody dumped out a bag of Skittles and turned them into Gundams. They're way too oversaturated, right? And it's for kids, obviously. So for me, it's like watching Pokemon. The colors are jacked up so kids get into it. So Gundam 00, it's so bright that I don't like looking at them. I like the battles, I like the story especially, but I don't like staring at them. So no, the Exia is beautiful, but I don't really like looking at those ones. So no.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good one.
I'm not asking you any little spoilers, but kind of for any of the characters for the new war for Cybertron Siege. Whenever you like write the characters, is there ever like a guideline you have for writing them, or?
That's true.
Okay.
That's true of every animated series. I mean, whether it be War for Cybertron or anything. Like I said earlier, you might not have been here earlier, I said, the executive producer creates a series Bible. In that series Bible is every character's personality. And, you know, for example, like you don't have, let's say, like Optimus Prime doesn't break into show tunes. You know, he just doesn't. You know, he's very much like a John Wayne type of character because he even sounds that way. So, you know, like when you write certain characters, you have to stay within the bounds of their personalities. So, you know, Ironhide is always Ironhide across almost every single version. He's always that tough, ornery character. Ratchet is Ratchet. You know, certain characters get changed based on the toy line, because it's all for the toys. So certain characters will shift for the toy, but only because that animated series was created for that toy. So for this series, I can't say too much about it, but their personalities are very much the personalities we all know and love, except they're a little bit more intelligent, a lot more gritty, a lot tougher. So it's very much a last few days of a war that's going badly for a lot of people. So they're all going to be within their characters, but in that scenario, that's what you're going to get.
So did you have like any, say like all, like, say, Star Suits, like you try to tweak some all of the like little tweak that he doesn't do, but he wouldn't do, but you decided to add it, or?
No, we're not allowed to do that, really. Because the characters, the voice actors, and all this stuff, it's all money. Again, you can't deviate from so much because we only have a certain amount of screen time for every character. And that's every cartoon, every TV show too. So you need to maximize, no pun intended, maximize what you have. And Starscream is Starscream. Across the board, he's always Starscream, you know, and in this particular case, he's still Star, but he's Generation 1 Starscream.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, you're welcome. Yes, sir.
So, piggybacking off of what he said, kinda, how overbearing is Hasbro in both characters and plot-wise? Are they very much railroading you towards a certain storyline, or is it kind of free to the writers?
No, the showrunner is not Hasbro at all, it's the showrunner. The showrunner is given a set of guidelines. They're not so much, you know, they're not oppressive at all. I mean, because they know that you need to loosen up and let the characters breathe and do certain things. But again, you know, like looking at Star Trek, well, not Star Wars anymore, but looking at Star Trek, Kirk is generally Kirk, Spock is generally Spock, McCoy is generally McCoy. You know, you can't have them deviate too much unless that deviation is a whole movie, you know, so to speak, you know, so you gotta look at it that way. So no, Hasbro's never been oppressive as far as we're concerned. And like I said, we've wrapped season 1 in terms of the writing. So as far as that's concerned, we had an astonishing amount of freedom to do certain things. And you'll see, again, next year, I don't know where it'll be, hopefully I'll be at various conventions. After it comes out and everyone has a chance to digest it and see it, then you'll understand why all this weirdness and vagueness, you'll understand what it was for. Because I want also for you to be, I want people to be able to watch it the first time and be like, oh my God, I'm glad this wasn't spoiled for me. You know, so it's going to be, trust me when I say it's going to be awesome. G1 fans will not be disappointed.
I can only tell so much in this episode, but it has to be contained. But I have to keep in mind the bigger plot or something. How does that work as opposed to writing something that's just going to be told all at once?
Well, features or movies or a novel for that matter, you know, it's all different types of storytelling. But when you're working in television, it's hyper collaborative. You know, there are very few writers in history of a TV shows other than Babylon 5. You know, like a couple of seasons when J.M. Straczynski did it all by himself. Generally speaking, you had a writing room. So television has since day one been compartmentalized and episodic. That's the whole point of it. You know, in a way, and I'll say this too for everyone who may not have gone to film school or whatever, this is how you need to think about TV that's not streaming, like network or cable. Commercials do not interrupt TV shows. TV shows interrupt commercials. Okay? That's what TV is made for, commercials. Because a show gets canceled because it has low ratings. Why? Because it can't sell commercial time. You know, that's why the Super Bowl, $2 million for 15 to 30 seconds. So all of that is a part of how we look at it. Everything is structured, hyper-structured. So you're trained to write in a hyper-structured way. So for a half-hour show, you get 3, sometimes animation sometimes gets 2 acts, but generally speaking, you get 3 acts to tell it. 1-hour shows have 4 or 5 acts, depending on the type of show. Like the CW formula, like Arrow, Flash, all that. Every episode of all those shows are structurally the exact same. That's why it works. Just like the Marvel movies. If you strip the name of the character out and just watch what happens in every Marvel movie, it's the exact same thing. Iron Man is no different than Thor, no different than Captain America, no different than Black Panther, no different than Captain Marvel. Look at how they all structure. So it's all about structure, right? So TV is the same thing. You have to have an end of act break, so that's the cliffhanger. So here's how it works. Act 1, problem. Act 2, problem gets worse. Act 3, resolution. That's it. That's every movie, every TV show in history.
That's great, thank you.
You're welcome. There you go.
Will any main characters die, or will it only be background characters?
Can't answer that.
Can't tell you that.
Can't tell you.
Boy, can't tell you that, honey. I'm sorry.
Yes.
So this is a question I kind of wanted to ask every
Sure.
writer, and it's knowing your love for the series, knowing your love for the characters, and knowing your history as a fan,
how many times as you're reading what you write, are you reading it in the voices of the characters who are speaking the lines?
Wow. You know what it is? It depends on whether or not I can do the voice. I can't do it now, but I can do a pretty good Frank Welker impression of Megatron. It's not, I can't do it, right? I can't do it now, but trust me, I can do it sometimes. Like, when I read Star Wars books, I do it in the voices. Like, Palpatine I can do, a little bit. I'm not gonna do it now, embarrassing myself. But, yeah, it depends on what franchise it is. If it's something I can do myself, I'll do it. With the superhero stuff, like with Spider-Man is one of my favorite heroes, I always hear the voice of, the guy Christopher Barnes who did it on the animated series in the 90s. Yeah, the guy who he was in the Brady Bunch movies, he played Greg, I believe, or Bobby, one of them. Christopher Barnes, that's the voice I hear for Spider-Man. Also the voice of him from Spider-Man and Amazing Friends from the early 80s. That's a great voice. For Green Goblin, I don't really have a voice. This is a subject I can talk about for a long time. Like Magneto, right, he's the Hobgoblin too, right? Like that animated series ruined it for a lot of us because those became the definitive voices.
Yes.
Because Kevin, what's his name?
Conroy.
Kevin Conroy, his Batman is one of the greatest ever, followed by Michael Keaton in my opinion.
Woo! Yes!
Mark Hamill, what can you say? Mark Hamill, good guy. He's good in everything. And yeah, absolutely, of course. The trick is this. I watch Star Wars movies repeatedly all the time. One thing I noticed about Return of the Jedi is that the only reason to watch Return of the Jedi is for Mark Hamill and Ian McDiarmid, who plays the Emperor. Like, you take those performance-wise, you take those two performances out of Return of the Jedi, it does not work. Other than the guy who played Admiral Akbar. No, that performance, seriously, he's a squid head, and I took him very seriously. It took a real voice actor to make me think, not laugh at Admiral Akbar. Because it's a squid in charge of a spaceship. And he's sitting there and he's on a floating chair, and I'm like, why do I take him so damn seriously? Just like the dude from Rogue One. He was on Mon Calamari too. That guy, Admiral Radish is his name, who led that attack on Scarab. That voice actor, whoever did that, made me believe that was real. Frank Oz, Yoda, good guy. It's a puppet that I'm sitting there like that speech he gives Luke in the middle of Empire Strikes Back, the famous speech was like, judge me by my size, do you? And well, you should not, for my ally is the Force. Powerful ally it is. That whole speech, every time, it gives me chills. Because Frank Oz read the shit out of it. And Frank Oz is Fozzie Bear. But so the voice acting thing is very important to me, and as the Japanese say, to say I would say that, I read a lot, so to answer your question, I still read in voices, but it has to be stuff I can do and stuff I really like. Otherwise, if there's like an actor, because now when I read Captain America, I hear Chris Evans.
Yeah.
When I read Kirk, it's always Shatner. I like Chris Pine, but it's always going to be Shatner. But like Nimoy is your favorite. Well, it would be season 1 of the first series.
Yeah.
Because that was like almost a 13-episode arc. That was first. So then it would be season 2 of Beast Wars.
No.
Because when Ravage showed up, because this is the story I didn't get to finish. I wasn't into Transformers, and the way I got back, I was into Transformers until 88, 89, discovered my man in life, and then I went to college, and I thought Transformers was gone as a franchise. I didn't even hear of Beast Wars, right? I didn't collect or read Generation 2, because they looked, in my opinion, they looked really cheaply made, and I was like, Megatron is not a tank. I get why they would do it, but to me, it's still a gun, got really mad. So then, this is for people who are my age group, those of us who remember Deja news groups, like alt.toys.transformers, before message boards, there was this thing called news groups, Deja News, and when I first of all found that there was a community of people on the early internet that gave a damn, I was like, what? People still care? So then, by 1997, I graduated, went back into my life, and then what happened is, I discovered the alt.toys.transformers, Transformers FAQ by Steve Stonebreaker, who went to I went to Boston University for grad school. He was at Boston University too, right? I didn't meet him, which was weird, right? So when I rediscovered Transformers, then they were like Beast Wars, Beast Wars, Beast Wars. I'm like, what the hell is Beast Wars? And then I turned it on one Saturday morning, and it was CGI, which I wasn't a fan of, because I didn't like that style at first. It took me a while to grow into it. So, and I didn't like season 1 because there were 2 moons in the sky, and Energon hurt them, and I was like, what is this? And then Starscream's ghost shows up, right? Then that second moon in the sky turned out to be some alien nonsense. So then it was our moon. And then they started doing stuff that was going to really anger Christians because they had humans running around in the background. And I was like, oh my God, this is Earth. Oh my God. So then eventually Ravage shows up, and then you see the Ark stuck in the side of the volcano, and I was like, Jesus Christ, this is it. And then they go inside of the Ark, and you see everybody deactivated, and I was like, oh my God. So then after that, I re-engaged with the franchise and realized they were fans. Then I realized there were Japanese shows that continued, I mean, G1, like Headmasters, Master Force, and Victory. And then I saw Scramble City, and I was like, wait a minute, there's more? But wait, there's more. You know, and I was like, there's more? You know, Matthew Willard from Scream. So I was like, are you kidding me? So then, as time went on, I tracked down the manga, the untranslated manga, the scans, you know, and then I started realizing there were Japanese bookstores in the United States, so I started ordering from that. And then eBay came along, and that changed the whole game for Transformers in general, because eBay allowed people to re-engage without having to travel 15,000 miles or 500 miles to get your Transformers stuff. So, so it would be, the long story is, it would be first season G1. I like the other ones, but that was really, it felt really tight. Like the storytelling was very tight, you know. And I got, you know, you got the one, Countdown to Extinction, fantastic 3-parter. The Arrival of the Dinobots, when Optimus is like, okay, kill them now, turn them off. You know, Wheeljack defies them. You know, let's see. Yeah, Wheeljack's a jackass sometimes. What else? Then the episode Heavy Metal War, when the Dinobots fight Devastator the first time, and Megatron steals all Decepticons' powers. I mean, that was stuff that we would sit around and think about. What if Megatron had all their powers? And they did it. They did it. You know, and I was like, wow. So that whole season, and then later, I think my favorite script in Transformers history is Megatron Master Plan. The idea of using media and politics to sway an entire population to believe your enemy is your friend, and your friend is your enemy. Who'd have thought that could actually and the fact that Megatron did that, and it did that, I mean, the idea of that, like, the Autobots have been saving humans for that point for like 3 or 4 years. And then Megatron was like, oh, no. See, here's our Republic, here's our buddy Sean Berger, and he is going to prove to you that we're the good guys. They've been scheming you the whole time, and the whole population just turns on. Like, to me, I mean, animation was so-so, but that script, particularly the end of part 1, when it looks like Megatron wins, and then after the Autobots blow up, and humans are like, yay, Megatron's like, you people are so stupid. What deserve is about to happen to you. That was great, you know. And then, let's see, later. I mean, Prime was all right, you know, Animated was all right. But no, I really do think, and I'm not saying that because I worked on it, I really believe that this is going to be the definitive Generation 1 Transformers story. I'll be shocked if people say otherwise after this streams on Netflix. So yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I think this is going to be it. Thank you.
Our next panel is coming to the board one, the feedback panel.